Welcome to the Amy Edwards Show. I'm your host, Amy Edwards, and of course, what am I going to say right now? You probably know if you listen to the show, I'm so excited about today's guest. always, because I have these amazing conversations that help us up-level our lives just a little bit every single day. And we can find something in these conversations that betters our habits, betters our mindsets, and just gets us a little bit closer to that highest version of ourselves, of which there is no limit, might I add. So I'm so excited that you're here. Little things up top. You can subscribe to the newsletter at amyedwards.com. I've got my courses out and, of course, social media and all that. And if you like the show or think of somebody during it, please leave a review or share it with a friend, because I think that is where true magic happens. When we think of someone, that is just our intuition and our connectedness bringing us all together. And those are the times that foster more connection and allow conversations that bring us deeper into our humanity. And I love that. So kind of got off on a tangent, but I want to welcome our guest today, Brittany Boersma. And I'm so happy that you're here, Brit. We've been friends for a couple of years, and I could not be more excited to sit down with you and hear more about your story, your journey, and all the wisdom that you have to offer. A little bit about you. You are a sacred embodiment guide and the co-founder of BZen Wellness, along with a 500-hour registered yoga instructor and PEMF practitioner, which I'm so interested in. Energy worker, breathwork facilitator. When I met you, you were still working on the breathwork, and I hope we can talk about that a little bit today. You're a doTERRA wellness advocate, ceremonialist, retreat leader, public speaker, and of course you have BZen Wellness in your you're here and in Eugene, Oregon, and offering so much good content online, including on different apps like Insight Timer, where I've enjoyed your meditations. So I am so excited, and I love you and your husband, Jonah, so much. And so I'm excited to jump in and start today. Your student of Radha, too, has been a guest on the show. Yes. And so that's so interesting how that's come full circle, too, at least with how we all know each other. And I might as well throw in that you have a degree in psychology too and a business background.
Yeah,
which
thank you.
It's so cool how those things can serve us too, you know, as we fit all the puzzle pieces of life together. So yay! So you're here, and we've already had a cacao ceremony that I'm still drinking and set our intentions. So yeah, welcome.
Thank you so much.
How'd that feel?
Felt great. I get a little bashful when I hear all of the things that I've listed that I do.
It's a lot, right? Well, I do too, you know, and I wonder why that is. We get, you know, a little bit, I don't know, just like embarrassed or something. It's like, oh, tone it down when we don't want to tone it down, right?
Right.
What do you think that is?
I mean, we've worked hard for everything that's listed there.
Dude,
right?
your 500-hour yoga, that's no small feat.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you worked hard for all of these things, and so did I for my list. But at the same time, and Justin does it to me all the time, in front of people, calls all this stuff out, and you're like, no, take it down.
Yeah. Minimizing ourselves. Not
And
wanting
you're
others
not.
to feel uncomfortable.
And you're not one to minimize yourself ever. And yet we
Thank
still
you.
have this instinct, right? To tone it down a little bit, or to be like, oh, stop, you know?
Well, I also think it's about, you know, when we share about ourselves and what we're doing, it feels uncomfortable. There's a bit of discomfort that comes up. So even just when I was creating the website initially, I think the most challenging thing is creating our bio.
Yeah.
And writing about ourselves. And when we get to hear about ourselves, you're like, wow, that sounds really great.
Yeah.
So thank you for actually doing the research and understanding and reading what I've been up to.
Well,
for so
I
many
knew
years.
all this stuff too from knowing you, but when I see it all together, I'm like, oh yeah. But you're right. Like, we hear it all together, and then I don't know, for me, I think there's a little shred of worthiness in there where I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want people to think I'm like, you know,
full of myself.
Yeah, or something like that. So anyway, well, when you hear that list, what is jumping out at you right now? Because I should add too that you are in remission from breast cancer. True?
I am cancer-free.
Cancer-free.
Yes.
Even better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's been a real huge part of your journey in the last 2 year and a half, I suppose, right? And as somebody who's in the healing space and tuned into that, I guess it would be cool to start with how that challenged your view of healing and what that brought up in the process and where you are now.
Well, it's interesting because having the conversation with people, the verbiage that we use around ourselves or the verbiage that I use around myself has been really vital throughout the whole process. And somebody said to me, oh, well, because you're sick.
Wow.
Or because you were sick. And I'm like, actually, I was never sick. I never felt sick ever. And so it was a huge surprise to me to find a teeny tiny tumor in my breast. Thank goodness we found it so early because I never got to the point of feeling sick.
How'd you find it? Were you doing like self-exams or what?
The story is really wild. So my mom, she had breast cancer and she was diagnosed November of 2020, October, November. And for her, she needed to go straight into chemotherapy with her specific diagnosis. And what a lot of people don't understand is, yes, breast cancer is a general term, but there's so many specific diagnoses within that umbrella. So her diagnosis sent her straight into chemotherapy. And because it was a little bit more of an aggressive breast cancer, and my grandmother also had breast cancer. So it's been a generational.
Oh my gosh. No wonder
familial.
you were like, double mastectomy. Yeah.
Well, and I was resistant to going with a double mastectomy.
I remember talking to you some during this.
So my mom, she goes through chemo. She went through chemo. It was really rough. I got to witness a lot of it. Really sick through the chemo. And then she had a double mastectomy after her chemotherapy. And I was with her for the week after her surgery, and I stayed with her. It's really challenging after a surgery like that. You have drains. So having somebody to tend to your drains, to help with your meals, you can't really reach much overhead. You can't lift more than 5 pounds.
Wow.
So you need help and you need a lot of support. So I was there supporting her for that first week, and she ended up getting an infection and needed to go back into the hospital. And at that point, I was exhausted, even just helping after a week, being a supporter. And I'm like, I've got to go back home. She lives in Grants Pass, which is a 2-hour drive from Eugene. And on my way home, I started calling my team. I have a colon hydrotherapist. I have an acupuncturist. I needed massage. I'm like, I need all of the things to help my body right now. I'm feeling exhausted, and I need to regroup before I go back to mom. So I went to my colon hydrotherapist, and her name's Tara Alder. She's so special to me and an amazing healer in my life. And she was massaging around my belly and around my armpit area. And I was just noticing that my armpits felt sore. I was like, ooh, that's interesting. And I thought maybe it was due to stress, or maybe I was premenstrual, but I actually wasn't. And she's like, maybe just pay attention to that. And it would be really cool for you to go get breast thermography. Have you heard of breast thermography?
No.
It's fascinating. And I was resistant to going and getting a mammogram because you're exposed to radiation. Yeah. And I wasn't even at the age that I needed to get a mammogram.
No.
I was only 34 years old.
Yeah.
So I reached out to a woman who does breast thermography, Ingrid Edstrom. And she... they use a far infrared camera, so they're able to see heat spots, and then they're also able to see blood vessels. So if there is a tumor or a cancerous tumors create their own blood supply.
Whoa.
So through the breast thermography, you can see if there is something in the breast and if there is a blood vessel connected to it.
Oh.
It was very faint in my imaging. And I wasn't sure what we were seeing exactly when we were looking at it together, but she showed me what to look out for. I'm like, I don't know if I see that in there, but she sent me in to get a bilateral ultrasound. At the same time, I went and saw my primary, and she gave me a breast exam, and I was like, I feel something maybe in my right breast. my right breast was feeling sore. Like I said, I thought maybe I was premenstrual. I get sore breasts around that time of the month, and I wasn't. So it was mysterious. And I went in for 2 separate ultrasounds. Both doctors came in and suggested that I get this spot on my right breast biopsied. So then I went in for a biopsy, which is pretty brutal.
I've done it.
Yeah, man. Talk about having our practices, having our breath practice, our meditation, just to get through that biopsy. It required a lot of my energy. And I even had a woman hold my hand through it, one of the ultrasound techs. Bless her heart. I'll never forget her, Kayleen.
Yeah.
And we were headed to Las Vegas shortly after that. And they asked, well, you're going on vacation. Do you want to hear your results while you're on vacation? I said, yeah, just let me know, because I didn't believe that it would be cancerous.
Wow.
I really didn't believe it. And I continued to have, really positive thoughts. Jonah, my beloved, sat me down before I went in for the biopsy. And even at the thought of maybe having breast cancer, it was, very frightening. But we sat down for a visualization together, and he helped me visualize my highest self, the goddess that I am, the healthiest version of myself. And so that is what I kept looking at and kept visualizing, was the highest version of myself. And I also had a call shortly after that with Kyle Kingsbury. And he said, you are healthy, you are happy, you are whole, and that's it. Don't forget that. So I have continued to repeat to myself, I am happy, I'm healthy, I'm whole.
I love that.
Throughout the process. So we get to Las Vegas, we're checking into our hotel, and I get a phone call, and that it was breast cancer. And it's a different diagnosis than my mom. And the woman, it was Kayleen again. She was so special to me throughout the whole process. But she said, we should be able to take care of this pretty easily. It's a good thing you caught it early, because it hasn't developed into anything too extreme. And so I was like, oh man, maybe I'll just take some natural remedies and we'll solve it that way. But, devastation, complete devastation in that moment. Just what? And disbelief.
Yeah.
And I'm almost still in disbelief that it all happened, because everything happened so fast. But the first person that reached out was my naturopath, and Dr. Kelly Fitzpatrick. And she had received the scan, and she called me at the same time that I learned about the diagnosis.
Wow.
And she works with a lot of people that have had cancer. She's also shared that she's had cancer herself. So she reminded me that we need to utilize Western medicine, and our holistic medicine and Eastern medicine can be a huge support along the way. So one of the things I was reminiscing on earlier today was I had an amazing team of people already lined up to support me.
Your list is amazing. I'm like, well, I need a naturopath. I need a,
yeah. Well, and my therapist has been huge, and I already had a therapist that I was working with before this. So it was really nice, because before it was all preventative work that we were doing. Not necessarily with my therapist. We're always working through drama of some sort and life and trauma. But to have that team of people and the support right away was really huge. Yeah. And so that is a big message of mine, is to have a team, at least a team of friends that can support you. Because right away our tribe, our people came around and surrounded us. So.
And people want to help. That's something to remember too, I think, because sometimes you can get in the mindset of being a burden, and, everyone's busy and that sort of thing. But it's important to know that people want to help. At least I want to help people. And so I'm like, why don't they too? Why am I?
Well, you want to help,
acting like,
but we have to ask.
We have to ask. Good. Yes.
So finding my voice in asking for help has been so transformative. And that's still something that my mom is working through. So she and I, at that point, when I learned about the breast cancer, and I speak about it very specifically, it's not mine. I don't own it. It is not my identity. This was a cancerous tumor in my breast that needed to be dealt with.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit delicate to identify as a breast cancer survivor because it becomes an identity. And I am healthy, I am happy, I am whole. I am not breast cancer.
Yeah.
Breast cancer happened. So being very cautious about how we use the language. And yes, we have thoughts that come through that might be negative, or we get lost in a train of language that might not be as positive for ourselves. But quickly switching that is really important, especially when we're working with a dis-ease.
Yeah.
And so my mom and I just recently were having this conversation of I need to know when you need help, and you need to be able to ask. And I'm going to ask you if I need help from you too. So having the strength to ask for help and to not feel like a burden. I have such an adverse reaction to that word just because it's been used a lot in my life. And asking for help, needing something does not make us a burden.
No, not at all.
Having needs doesn't
it's
make us a burden. It means that we're human. And it felt so beautiful to be able to receive through this process. So, once I got that phone call and learned about the tumor, I had called my mom. She was one of the first people that I called after that. And she immediately wanted to help me. She's a nurse, so it's ingrained in her. But in that moment I said, Mom, because she still had radiation to go through and she was still healing from like her surgery. I believe she actually had started radiation at this point. I said, Mom, I need you to keep healing and keep working on yourself. And I'm going to keep doing myself. I'm going to keep working on this part of myself, but I can't keep traveling as much. I'm going to really need to tap into my own self-care. So at that point, I had to really let go of a lot of codependency with my mother and the need and desire to help her and be her healer and be there every step of the way because I really needed to focus on me. So it was a huge breaking point or a breakthrough for me to just really draw a strong boundary, not just with her, but other people in my life too.
Would you say that was like gifts that you got within it?
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
And I had a really great phone call with a functional medicine doctor, Dr. Conover.
Oh, yeah.
And, he gave me some great advice, but the greatest advice that he gave me, he said, sooner than later, you need to remember that this is a gift and you need to realize that this is a huge gift that you're being given. And in that moment, you're like, what? Why is this happening to me? It doesn't make sense. But I've had enough traumatic events in my life that I've always known that it's all happening for a reason. And we're going to be able to look back and see, okay, this is all meant to be. But in that initial moment, you don't really.
It's so hard to skip to that part, without going through it, because we are naturally going to have those emotions. At least I have too, when I've had those experiences. And now I know, okay, I know I'm going to see this as a gift. I know I'm going to be grateful for it. But oh my gosh, it's those initial moments that are just really, I think we just have to feel the feelings. That's part of it. Are you ready to up-level your pleasure practice? I have in mind, and one of the tools that I've used is from Wands. That's WAANDS. One of my favorite items that they have is the cervix wand. It is their #1 best-selling glass pleasure wand for vaginal and anal de-armoring. That means more sensation. That means more getting in touch with your body. It's designed for cervical and G-spot stimulation, and it has helped thousands of women become more connected to themselves and their own pleasure while supporting them to heal pelvic pain through self-yoni massage. So if you are curious about getting more in touch with yourself, then I have an offer for you. You can get a discount using my code Amy Edwards, but if you use the link in the show notes, you can get 20% off from Wands. They have so many other beautiful items to choose from, with a large selection of 100% pure crystal pleasure wands. They create the most gorgeous, luxurious products that encourage you to honor your body, celebrate your sexuality, and live in pleasure, which is a big part of what we're about on this show. And yes, I use one myself. So go today to wands.com, that's WAANDS, and use the code Amy Edwards for 10% off, or use my link in the show notes for 20% off of your purchase from Wands. Again, my favorite is the cervix wand. It is trademarked and it is amazing. Take it from me. Check it all out and the reviews on wands.com. That's WAANDS.com, and use my link in the show notes for 20% off. Well, one thing you mentioned in there that I want to talk about, because we were talking a little bit about it downstairs, was, and I was going through your brand kit that you sent me, so I was like thinking about branding words and things. And so when we were recently hanging out, I had said something about my boobs and TikTok, because I have a lot of cleavage on TikTok, and follow me at the Magic Babe. And I was like, that's part of my brand. And, you know, you said you had thought more about that.
Yeah. Well, just yesterday, I met with a woman who started a foundation. It's called the AIRS Foundation, and it's the Alliance in Reconstructive Surgery. Yeah,
okay.
AIRS. And I'm going to just be very vulnerable here. My experience has been very privileged. I was able to have this major surgery, in which we haven't highlighted what got me to that decision, and then have a really beautiful reconstruction. And I feel very grateful to have been able to have reconstructive surgery. I'm 35 years old, still young. I think that, you know, we all deserve to feel beautiful. And my breasts were a huge part of my identity. And I love my cleavage. I love my breasts. I always received great compliments. They were very perky and beautiful.
I saw them.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they were great.
They're great boobs.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
My mom, huge part of her brand as well, her personal brand. She never would identify it as that, but she had big boobs. My grandma had huge, gorgeous boobs. And even when I was a child, you know, I just remember snuggling up on my grandma and snuggling up on her breasts, and then just witnessing her lose her breasts. She ended up having a single mastectomy, and then it came back in the other breast, and then she had the other breast removed. It was a really brutal process, and we dealt with it a lot differently back then. And my mom, she ended up choosing to go flat. So we all have different choices on what we do, and getting to have the reconstruction and feel confident still in the clothes that I'm wearing. There's a lot of great alternatives though for the women that do choose to go flat. There's awesome bra inserts and different things. So learning along the way that there's just so many different options that we can take. Some women aren't given as many options depending on what the diagnosis is. But reconstruction is usually an option. And insurance companies, if you are blessed to have insurance, they're required to cover the reconstruction after mastectomy. So getting back along the lines of branding and confidence in our breasts, it's a huge problem that we're not really focusing on, that women who might not have the funds to pay for a reconstruction, women who don't have insurance. I think about the single mom who's, working day in and day out, who doesn't have time to sit and do research on a doctor, or doesn't realize that there are organizations like the Heirs Foundation who help support women to receive reconstructive surgery after mastectomy. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this, but being able to be restored, and I won't be able to breastfeed. That was the biggest grief that I have experienced, is knowing that I won't be able to breastfeed. We don't have children yet, but there are lots of other options out there for feeding a child, and lots of other ways that we can create a strong, secure attachment bond with a baby if you aren't breastfeeding.
Yeah.
So you can still have a secure attachment with a child if you aren't breastfeeding it.
For sure. I breastfed one and didn't the other. So,
and guess what? They're still
They're
healthy,
still- yep,
healthy
they're
and
fine.
happy and
yeah,
well.
Yeah. She was just so huge. I just couldn't do it. I would cry. I was like, okay.
She's
I
sucking me
give.
dry.
You win. You 9.5-pound baby.
Oh my gosh.
Well, it's just interesting too how much we can identify ourselves with something about our physicality and maybe not even realize it, you know, like your mom. And so I try to stay really cognizant of the fleeting nature of this. You know, like I do say it's part of my brand. It's kind of a joke, but it's kind of true. And I know that anything can vanish in an instant. So we just have to have such gratitude for whatever we've got in that moment.
Yeah. It's kind of a highlight of, you know, having some privilege guilt and survivor's guilt around being able to have had this surgery, this amazing aftercare, and a beautiful healing experience. And to know that it is possible to be restored and to find that confidence in ourselves again. But yeah, like I said, I just think about a lot of women who might not have that option.
Yeah. And the stress on top of it, you know, like they probably, I'm assuming, you know, could have some deep stress. And, you know, one of your things that I was reading about on your website was talking about thriving in difficult times. And that can be such a challenge sometimes. You know?
Yeah.
What'd that bring
Well,
up?
it brings up my meditation practice
Yeah?
and being able to be quiet with ourselves. So there was a lot of discomfort, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual discomfort in the decision making, discomfort in, am I making the right decision? Am I making the right choice? Is this too extreme? And the ability to get quiet and to really ask myself to tune into my intuition, because I can only really tap into my intuition when I'm quiet and experiencing my body. So that's where the Sacred Embodiment guide comes in, is getting quiet and actually experiencing my body. You start to learn the subtle signs of what is a yes in the body and what is a no. And I was receiving a lot of different input and a lot of different opinions from lots of different people during that time. I was also asking for it and, you know, seeking people's opinions. But I really had to make the decision from my own self. I really had to get quiet and just sit with it.
And discern which voices were yours and your intuitions and not just your mind, like being like, oh, that person said that.
And fear.
Yeah.
Fear is a huge talker in the mind of, you know, will it come back? And will this one surgery cure it? Or there's other options out there. There was cryoablation that I was looking into, as far as you can go in and freeze the tumor.
Wow.
And that was really fascinating. So I had looked into that. I looked into a lot of different options. I just talked with many, many different doctors. And so having the time to be able to do that also was a huge honor and privilege, to be able to take the time to make other phone calls And so I think about the women that they hear their first recommendation from the first doctor that their insurance covers or that they're directed to, and that is the route that they take, instead of taking a moment to get some other opinions. Because every person that I spoke with had a different bit of medicine that I could take. So one of the doctors, Dr. Johnson, she guided us to the fertility clinic in Portland because we looked into egg retrieval and we ended up retrieving eggs after my surgery. But she was saying the best way to prevent breast cancer is getting 20 to 30 minutes of exercise 5 days a week. So I'm like, wow, I can do that. And that got me on my Peloton a lot more often.
Yeah.
And I've already been somebody who's really into exercise and fitness and taking care of myself in that way. But to hear that tip, it, put a little extra fire under my ass to get some extra exercise.
It's so simple.
Super simple.
I mean, some of these answers are so simple, and yet we still make it more complicated.
Well, and as soon as I, learned about the tumor, I knew that I was going to be having either a surgery or the cryoablation or something. So I needed to start exercising a lot more because I knew that I was going to be down for a little bit.
Yeah.
So sometimes we get this news and we might, go into a hole and allow depression to take over and not want to get out of bed. And that's okay for us to do for a little bit, but we really need to get our bodies moving and the blood flowing so that if we do have to have a major surgery or something comes up, we're able to be strong enough to lift ourselves up out of bed, to have the core strength when you can't push yourself up out of bed. If you can't lift more than 5 pounds, you need to be able to get yourself up. So there's always a reason for us to take care of our bodies and focus on our strength,
Have you really thought about why you think it happened to you?
So we sat with ayahuasca January of 2021. And then I learned about the tumor I learned that it was cancerous July 2nd. So it was 6 months later. And it was in those ceremonies that Jonah and I really knew that we wanted to have children together. And we already had known it, but ayahuasca just showed us that it's time. So we were really thinking about having children. And one thing that I've been saying is that I'm, generationally changing patterns, and that, we're ending the cycle of violence, ending the addiction that runs in my family. And that's kind of a big job to put on ourselves. But that was, those were some different thoughts that I had through ayahuasca was, okay, I'm changing these patterns, these big, big family patterns, the ancestry. And I didn't quite go in there with that specific intention, but it was always in the back of my mind. And then you fast forward to learning about the breast cancer. It drove us to look into fertility and fertility options. Because along with the surgery, the oncologist recommends a medication that's a hormone blocker, and it's called tamoxifen. So along with that, it can affect the vitality of the eggs, but more specifically, they suggest that I'm on it for 5 years. And oncology suggests taking it for 3, getting pregnant, and then after I have the baby, going back on the medication.
Wow.
So, and it's a hormone blocker, so it puts me into menopause. Basically.
Wow.
Got a little bit of hot flash happening right now.
Well, I had to turn off everything. Yeah.
But it had us looking into fertility, which we would have never, ever done had we not learned about this breast cancer. So we go to the fertility clinic, and I told Jonah, I said, you need to get your sperm looked at first if I'm going to get my eggs retrieved. It's a lot more complicated to get eggs retrieved than to get your sperm looked at.
Yeah.
So they analyze his sperm. They're checking out my body too to see how the egg retrieval we're, considering egg retrieval and embryo creation. And we learn that his sperm, he has low morphology in his sperm. So the sperm are more like spinning in circles than being straight shooters. Mm-hmm. That's my basic analysis here. It's more scientific than that. But we're like, what? We might not have ever gotten pregnant naturally had we not looked into fertility.
All these things just add up, right?
Exactly. Yep. And we move forward with doing egg retrieval and embryo creation. And then we were able to, it's a very complicated process. And so you wait for a certain amount of time to see how many embryos survive after the first day. And then you wait for another week to see. And then we chose to do PGTA and PGTM testing on them to test for a genetic mutation that runs in my family. My mom has this genetic mutation, and then I also tested for it when I learned about the breast cancer. It's called CHEK2. And so my mom and I both have a genetic mutation that makes this breast cancer more likely.
Wow.
So because of this genetic mutation and being able to do the embryo creation, you can genetically test the embryos for the mutation.
That is so wild.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We never knew that we would be getting ourselves into this. However, it was all leading to one thing, and it's us being able to procreate in the future.
And break a generational chain of something.
Right?
Wow.
So we're going to do another round of egg retrieval in the future, looking at the spring.
Does that hurt?
It's definitely uncomfortable. Yes.
They go in there and they take your eggs? Well, what do they do?
What's more uncomfortable is you're giving shots to yourself for about 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And so it's preparing the eggs to be able to get retrieved. So it's making the follicles large. So, in a cycle, we will drop one egg. Mm-hmm. But with an egg retrieval, they might be able to go in and get, up to 30, 40, 50, depending on how many you have. So as you're giving yourself these injections, Jonah, bless his heart, he gave me all my injections. They are uncomfortable, but the body starts to get uncomfortable because you start to really swell. You get very bloated. Mm-hmm. And by the end of these injections, it almost looks like you're 4 months pregnant.
Wow.
So you got a lot of bloat going on, and I was waddling. And then they go in and yes, they retrieve the eggs it's a hollow needle, but you are under anesthesia. It's a twilight anesthesia. Uh-huh. So I didn't remember, what had happened. And then afterward, you're really bloated as well. So you have to be really cautious with your activity level until you get your next cycle. So no jumping, bouncing. You're not supposed to get your heart rate up. So there's a lot of torture of me not being able to exercise.
Yeah.
And let's see what else. So there's a risk of ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome after you get your eggs retrieved, where the follicles can fill up with fluid and they have to go in and manually retrieve that fluid. Otherwise, it's your ovaries, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
The ovaries get really, really big.
Yeah.
So thank goodness that didn't happen to me, but it is a risk.
Yeah.
And let's see. But it was really uncomfortable. Yeah. Not painful.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you just have to rest.
Okay.
Do a lot of rest.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I gave you a long-winded explanation for that.
No, I'm glad you did. I mean, I think it's interesting, so many people have to go through that, and it's, yeah.
Yeah. And what was special about the process, we're talking about gifts. Mm-hmm. There were so many different women I spoke with about breast cancer, who had experienced breast cancer, who are on this medication that I'm on, and me getting some tips and tricks from them. And so I have this long list of allies that I would never have had before this. And then also I was getting to pull from people who have gone through IVF.
Yeah.
And so it was two different avenues of information that I was getting all at once, and also individuals who have gone through it. And I asked, doctors to refer me to some of their patients if they were willing to be contacted.
Yeah.
So there's a couple women that I still keep in touch with who've been incredible supporters through the process.
It creates these communities that you didn't even see coming, And you're so much about community.
Yeah.
So we just never know what form it's going to come in when we wish for these things.
Yeah, I wrote down some of the other gifts, but...
Oh, tell me. I love that you brought some notes.
Being an advocate for ourselves, learning to ask for help, and learning to speak what our needs are.
Were you good at that before?
I would say in comparison to others, yes. But I think that I didn't always know what my needs were.
I've been exploring that a lot in this show and just personally in the last, 6 months. And I've just been surprised at how much I didn't know what my needs were, and that's such an interesting thing to tap into, because a lot of times we're just pleasing others or performance, whatever it is. So good for you. How has that, and now you feel like you can tune into that more easily?
Well, yeah, I had to completely burn myself out a time or two in order to learn it.
Right?
And that's part of my work really is burnout prevention. How can we prevent burnout? Why do we have to reach the point of burnout to actually learn what our needs are?
Yeah. What are some of the indicators that you tell people to look for?
Well, for me personally, when I'm experiencing moodiness, I know that I need to have time to myself.
Yeah.
Alone time for me is really, really important. And my human design, I'm a projector. So
what does that mean?
I
have a manifesting generator.
So for the projectors, I have a lot of open energy centers. So when I'm around other people, I can easily absorb and feel what they're feeling.
Yeah.
So having time away from other humans, like at least, 6 to 12 feet away, but, preferably go into another room and have some quiet solitude. I like to find that in the morning. What are other indicators of burnout coming? If I just have way too many commitments.
Yeah.
And if I'm not actually getting quality sleep. So my sleep is number one. And so if I have a late night, I need to plan that the next morning I'm going to sleep in and rest and know that I'm probably not going to be very productive in the morning.
Yeah.
So knowing that sleep is number one.
Totally.
And
everybody get aware of your sleep.
Yeah. And if we want to have some fun nights, we need to make sure that we're factoring in the rest.
Yeah.
Afterward.
Yeah. Or
a night of a lot of socializing, I really have to decompress after that. And I need to kind of
decompress during. I have to go in the bathroom for a while.
That's really smart.
I do.
Yeah. Well, constantly kind of clearing the energy field, right? Because even through a conversation, we empathize with people. We are expending energy.
Yeah.
So where can we refuel that energy?
Yeah. I've had to take note of it just in the last, let's say, year or something. I've really been like, oh, maybe that's why I do that, because I'll just need a break, and like go in the bathroom. And sometimes I don't use the bathroom. I just mill around a little bit and just like take a break, cleanse it off or something like that. So when we need those breaks, we have to just get in the habit, I think, of being more aware of the indicators. Whether
red flags.
It's needing the breaks. The red
or yellow flags.
Our yellow flags. That's right. Our own yellow flags. I like that. And you can even, tap into all these practices, which are so, again, simple. Breath work, stretching, exercise, nature.
Well, and we can expend the energy. We've got energy to expend, but we have to actually factor in the time for the refuel.
Yeah.
So, when we're putting out a lot of creative energy or we're socializing a lot, just factoring that in, for me, it's sleeping in. I love to sleep and give myself the opportunity to allow my body to rest.
Do that now before you have kids.
Yeah. Oh, no.
You see me laugh.
Yeah. We have mixed emotions around the children part, but... Hey, at least we're set up to have them if we need to.
That's right. You sure are. You sure are. It's just, it changes your sleep, you know, like it just really does. And, now, of course, now I have teenagers and they want to sleep, but now I can't stay up as late as them. And I'm like, I got to go to bed. You guys, whatever. And apparently that's an evolutionary thing, a biological need where they're asserting their independence, apparently. Super fascinating. I learned that in Matthew Walker's book, Why We Sleep. Let's talk a little bit about, you know, your yoga journey and your breathwork journey and how those have evolved for you even in the last few years.
It's so challenging to not look farther past what this year has been for me. But, you know, my yoga journey started out,
by the way.
Yeah,
yes.
To rewind that far. But my yoga journey started out in a hot yoga studio doing vinyasa yoga. And it was high intensity, a lot of sweat. Just more intense, more yang practices. And I realized that through doing more advanced yoga teacher training, it doesn't all have to be like that. It doesn't have to be a push all the time. So in the last few years, I've really fallen in love with yin yoga. And it's very slow. It's very nourishing. You might do 6 shapes in a class. And they're long holds. It's really meant to get into our joints, our ligaments, our fascia. And I was just practicing my yoga this morning, and it was very slow and just really tuning into like what my body needed. My spine felt like it needed a lot more unwinding. So I was doing a little bit more twists, but really doing more intuitive work with myself in my practice. And a lot of people think that doing a yoga teacher training, you need to start teaching yoga. But a lot of the reason why people do a yoga teacher training is to deepen their own personal practice, to be able to be at home, pull your mat out and do something instead of just standing there like, I don't know what to do here.
Do I turn on YouTube or what do I do?
Exactly. So it feels so good to be able to guide myself through some sort of sequence. And just move in my body.
I like that too, just about anything. If someone's entertaining the idea of something, you can do it just for yourself. I feel like I did that with Reiki. I mean, I use it every single day on myself since I became a Reiki master about 1.5 years ago. And I'm just so grateful that I did it. And I'm able to use those practices, you know, whenever I use them throughout the day for myself. And, but I'm not at all a practicing Reiki master. So
what does that look like for you? Putting your hands on yourself?
I do a symbol.
Symbols?
I do the symbol. I invite in, you know, this universal energy and healing energy, and I imagine it throughout my body, and I face the mirror, and I modified the Reiki mantra, which I think is just for today, I will not anger, just for today. Theirs is a little different, and I modified it because I don't want to, it's again, tuning into those words, and I don't want to even say the word anger. So mine says, just for today, I'm at peace. Just for today, I will work easy. Because I think they say work hard. And I say, just for today, I will work easy. Just for today, I will show appreciation and gratitude. Just for today, I'm kind to all living things, including myself. So
That's beautiful.
I kind of moved it around a little bit. And so I say those things, and then I tell myself, I have a self-love practice right after that. So I do that every morning in the mirror.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and then I'll do it to my food, to my drinks, sometimes to my kids, you know, just
when they're not
on
looking.
the sly. On the sly, that's right. When they're not looking to their food, you know. And but it's just staying attuned to invite that in. But I think the bigger picture is that if you feel a call to something like that, it's cool to do it just for yourself, you know, and like just know that you. And I don't know how I'm going to use my Reiki down the road. And you don't know how you're going to use your yoga.
Are your hands getting hot just talking about this?
I don't know. We're inviting in energy.
Yeah, my hands are starting to sweat.
I love it. It's all that hot energy. I feel tingly a little bit. But we don't know how those are going to fit together. And it's honoring those calls too, like your yoga or breath work or whatever it was. Right?
Yeah. Jonah and I got attuned for Reiki 1 just recently.
Yeah. Oh, for Reiki 1. Oh, it's something when you get attuned to Reiki. Like you feel it. And you guys are already so open. I'm sure it was like intense. It's intense.
Was really lovely. The woman that attuned us is a woman that I had my surgery in LA. And so my therapist got me in touch with this acupuncturist and Reiki master. And she was incredible for me throughout my process throughout the year. And it's so cool when you're a Reiki master, or when you get your Reiki 2, you can do distance Reiki.
Yeah.
So, I would be laid out after my surgeries, and she would just work on me from afar.
Yeah.
I also had her working on me in surgery. I had a lot of different people working on me during surgery.
Wow. What a good idea.
Right?
Yes.
I also brought in recorded meditations that are specific for surgery into surgery.
What?
With my headphones, I brought a cute little stuffed animal.
You can wear headphones during surgery?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
And who knows, they might take them off.
They might.
They might take them off, but in the beginning, it's really, really helpful. And to just have it streaming through your consciousness when you're under anesthesia.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're practicing,
for sure.
When you're practicing meditation, it's going to have better outcomes for your surgery, specifically pre-surgery meditations that are meant for it. Mm-hmm. So there's some really cool ones that we could probably put in the show notes if people are looking for surgical meditations.
Yeah.
And that was really powerful. I was doing it for about 2 weeks leading up to surgery, and then I brought them into surgery with me. There's a 2-hour-long surgical meditation.
Whoa.
So most surgeons should allow you to do that, and you just have to ask.
Again,
speak up and ask. Don't make assumptions that you can't do something. Ask. And I also brought a little crystal that one of the surgeons had sent me, one of the many different second and third opinions I had gotten. So, yeah, having the meditation, having the yoga practice, breath work, it's fascinating because with yoga, we call it pranayama. So there's a lot of different breath practices that you can do with yoga or on your own. So, and that's one of the facets of Patanjali's 8-limb path of yoga is the pranayama, the breath. So if you're breathing, you're doing yoga. Yeah. It's not just the asana movement practices. But
I like that.
Yeah. And I went through Anahata Ananda's Breathwork Facilitator training, Healing Tools and Breathwork Facilitator training program. And those are more breathwork ceremonies where you're breathing
Which
deep.
I participated in with Anahata.
Yeah, we did it
in
together.
Sedona, and you were one of the floating angels, I believe. Yeah.
So
it was very difficult for me.
In what way?
I have a lot of issues with wanting to do things the right way. And so I was very frustrated that everybody else sounded like they were having this like major orgasmic or some sort of experience, and they were making all sorts of noise, and I was like, clearly I'm doing this wrong. And Vailana helped me a lot. I remember she came around to me, and she was very kind as I was like, clearly I'm doing this wrong. And she was like, no, you're not. There's no right way.
The inner critic.
Yeah, I was getting a lot of lessons that weekend in there's no right way. So anyway, that was a big one.
Yeah, we just want to know what the right way is.
All I want is a map. All I want is a checklist and some guidelines.
Are you a Capricorn too?
No, I'm a Virgo.
Okay, yes.
But like, I love maps. I mean, my ex-husband, whenever we would get a map to anything, he'd be like, oh, here you go. Here you are. And like, I just love a map. I love a guide. And so I was just constantly getting lessons in letting go of that. So that breath work was very challenging for me. Yeah. So
thanks for sharing that.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. I've continued to facilitate ceremonies. I've gotten to receive breath work. I wanted to, after my surgery, my first surgery, I did a virtual session with Claudia. She's one of our Fit for Service sisters.
Okay.
But she's also a breathwork facilitator, different training that she had done. And so I said, if I'm going to continue to facilitate, I need to receive a ceremony like as soon as possible. So she and I got on and did a ceremony, and it was really, really powerful. Mostly what I was receiving throughout the year was just a lot of physical healing. You just have had a major surgery, so the body is still being pieced back together, and my body is still healing now from the different surgeries. So to be able to receive the ceremony was really special. And then right after that, I was able to facilitate a ceremony for a fellow breast cancer survivor. And she was still going through treatment at the time. And
just all goes a cycle.
I know.
Like you're able to receive and give. And
exactly. Yep. So to be able to offer it is really, really special. I think a lot of people really want more breath work. I've noticed that. I've got a series coming up in December. I know this might air after the series is finished, but December 22nd, I'm doing a breathwork ceremony, and there's more people signed up for that than the yin yoga.
Yeah.
So it goes to show people are wanting to have releases, and I feel for like breathwork for me, it's a powerful release. It's an opening. It's really transformative.
Mm-hmm.
And
can you clarify a little bit more about that, just for anybody that's really curious?
Which part?
The transformative part, and what can happen in a breathwork ceremony?
So the ceremonies that I offer, you're basically breathing deeply into the belly for about an hour. And I've learned through the different trainings I've received to use different tools. We use different sound tools. We use music, and through using those tools, sometimes hands-on. Now I can also offer Reiki during it.
Cool.
But for myself, I've gone kind of deep into I've experienced past trauma that I had forgotten about. I've sat with my inner child and sat and comforted her in a ceremony. I've been able to just physically feel my body healing, like what I mentioned earlier.
Oh, that's cool.
I've been able to just throw a tantrum and let go of a lot of rage and anger.
I think that's what I did.
Yeah. It's like, oh. And sometimes it's our own inner rage towards ourselves, right? Like, why am I holding on so tightly?
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful journey into ourselves. And because you're breathing so deeply, it's very detoxifying. It detoxifies the brain and the body. And our bodies, you've heard the term, the issues are in the tissues. Mm-hmm. Our bodies hold on to trauma. And whether that is physical trauma from a surgery or emotional trauma that we've stored and don't realize that we're storing. And by this practice of I kind of think of the breath as a broom, and Anahata uses that example. The breath acts like a broom, and so it's just kind of like sweeping away old debris that we've been holding on to. And that could just be underneath the anger, deep grief. You might be having like a rage release, but then it might be grief that comes to the surface. And sometimes we just need an opportunity to cry safely and just let it out. So for me, I might just sit or lay and cry throughout the process. And that's really just what I needed.
Honestly, that just happened to me. And I was meditating, but I did cry, and I moved some energy that really surprised me. And I was like, maybe I needed to cry, And so there's an allowing in that too, allowing ourselves and also recognizing trauma, because everybody's got some. Mm-hmm. And it really does live in our body. Mm-hmm. And sometimes your body does not get the memo that we're okay. Mm-hmm. And so what can you do to move that out? And I'm reading The Body Keeps the Score. So
that's so good.
Oh my God. So good.
Well, and we were reading that during my trauma sensitive yoga teacher training.
Wow.
And
he talks a lot about yoga in there.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the practice of yoga is we're doing these different shapes in our body. Maybe we are just breathing, and maybe our bodies are in a place where we're only able to just lay there and breathe, and that's great. But these different shapes open up pieces and parts of the body that have been holding. So really, I feel like the purpose is feeling better in our bodies. And that's part of what my teaching is just feeling better in our physical bodies, because I think that we carry around a lot of physical pain, and a lot of that physical pain might be emotions that need to get released. And you might need a massage, but a lot of this stuff we can actually work through with a little bit of guidance and breath, and the breath is free.
No, it's right there. You're already doing it.
But we notice that when we're experiencing difficult challenges or trauma, that we're holding our breath
or breathing shallow, and just not allowing that deepness or a long exhale.
From the different surgeries I've had, there's not a lot of scar tissue because I've done a lot of work around the scar tissue, but a lot of people don't realize that doing manual work on the scars is really important because they can get really tight. So I notice too, when I'm doing different twists, I'll open up and I'll breathe into that space, and it helps to create space in the body. Wow. So I feel like part of my yoga practice is creating more space in my body, which opens up more space for positive emotions to come through, creates space to feel the negative emotions and to be with them and sit with them. And to the yin practice, you're sitting still for a long time, and it's quite uncomfortable if you're in a forward fold for 5 minutes and you're like, what the fuck? Like, get me out of this. But it teaches your body that we can do uncomfortable things and we can sit with discomfort. So the more that we continue to do that, like the cold plunging as well. You guys are big with the cold plunging, I know.
Justin's bigger than I am, yeah. Yeah, haven't gotten in it in months.
But embracing the discomfort and feeling it and being with it, it speaks to the body.
It really does. And you've probably had some moments of just getting more uncomfortable and expanding that zone, right? Through all this?
Yeah, our window of tolerance, so they say.
Yeah, or circle.
Yeah.
And allowing that to expand so much. So,
yeah, where a lot of things that were a big deal to me might not be as much of a big deal.
Like what?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Just daily stressors.
Yeah, like the daily stress.
Daily stress that comes through that I just allow myself to experience, and I might not be as affected by it.
Yeah.
So Jonah's probably thrilled about that.
Yeah, probably so. I mean, but that does serve you well just for your own mental well-being. Really, what's important.
Yeah.
Is this important?
Yeah. And, going back to receptivity and receiving, this whole journey, this year, it helped me call upon other professionals, like having Claudia guide me through a breathwork ceremony. I had another fellow yoga teacher come and offer me a restorative yoga session with Reiki. And that was all that I was able to do at the time. Wasn't able to really hold my own body weight up. But to be able to receive from other people in the field, it's really humbling to say, I need some help. Would you come and offer this to me? And it opens up our level of receptivity. And to, first of all, ask for help. It's very necessary. But to offer ourselves that time to receive, it's a huge, huge gift. And I believe firmly that our bodies respond to that. And I believe it speeds up our healing process when we offer ourselves time with our body. And maybe you're not bringing in a professional to help, but maybe you are just resting and listening to a meditation and just sitting with yourself. There's a lot of power in that. And I feel like the body keeps a score. Yeah. The body knows when you're honoring it, and it knows when you aren't.
Yeah. What's been some of the payoff of that for you? Like, is it better sleep? Is it better sex? Is it, where have you noticed like, wow, this has gotten to a new place for me?
I would say that it has been a journey because after my surgery, my body changed a lot. So back to, these physical attributes that, I identified a lot with my beautiful breasts before. And I had to be patient with the healing process because they did not look very pretty right after surgery. They're bruised. They are very sore. So I had to really be patient with myself. And I noticed myself being impatient with my healing. And thank goodness I have a lot of loved ones around me, Jonah, one of them, who acknowledged that, hey, it's okay. And you need to be patient. My nurses and doctors too encouraged a lot of patience. So I think patience is a huge word.
Yeah, for sure.
Being patient with the process because we just want to skip ahead.
I am queen of that. Like, please let me hit fast forward and get to the good stuff.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of ebbing and flowing. It wasn't all love and light. It was a lot of just allowing my body to go through its process, but also giving it some encouragement and noticing when I was getting in the negative thought loops around it. Placing my hands on my body was a huge gift. It still is. When I put my hands on my body, it helps to ground me. But along with the healing journey, just placing my hands on my breasts and welcoming in the new breasts.
Yeah.
Saying like, welcome to my body. This is my body. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. And I had to also do a lot of work around receiving implants. And there's so many people that are doing explants and a lot being shared on social media around getting explants. But
my sister just did it.
And to know that it's okay for me to receive implants. It didn't feel negative in my body when I was thinking about it. And there's other options for reconstruction. You can use your own tissue. That's called a deep flap procedure.
Wild.
But the implants felt okay. And as soon as I came out of surgery, this beautiful woman, Katie she shared this with me. She said, you have to welcome in your new breasts. So right when I came out of anesthesia, I just put my hands on my body and I said, welcome. Thank you.
What incredible practices. Yeah. That's never even occurred to me. But of course. But then I got mine, years ago before I was doing this kind of work. So, but that's excellent advice. Anytime we're doing anything like that. I don't even think I've said that. I have like a plate and a bunch of pins in my leg. Have I ever really talked to them?
Yeah, and thank you for keeping me standing.
Oh, well, I do talk to them because every time I would run after my surgery, I would just send good energy there and say, I'm so strong. Like my leg is strong, it's rather than going down a path of thinking like, oh my God, is my knee going to hold up? And I still do it. I'm doing some Pilates classes now and I can tell there's a little stress on it. So I just still talk to it. So this is a good message to anybody that's got something going on, talk to it, talk to it, touch it, send it energy.
So, in talking about sex, just being more connected to our bodies, touching our bodies. And for me to really get to know these new breasts. And that is how I found my tumor in the first place, was me touching my body. And I, had received the colon hydrotherapy. It brought some attention my way. But then I sat and got really quiet with myself. And I had been doing breast exams ever since, I learned about grandma when I was really young. So touching yourself, the more we touch ourselves, the more we understand the mapping of our body, and the sooner we're going to realize when something's off and something's different. So I think that's like a huge, huge takeaway was I could get down on myself for maybe thinking maybe I wasn't healthy at the moment. Like, why did this breast cancer come on? I really think it's generational and it was familial, and it was leading me to these embryos to test them to make sure that I'm not passing it on to my children, but also to really know that I caught it early and that I was so in tune with my body at that time that I was able to find it. And so we were able to catch it early. And there's so much education about giving ourselves breast exams, but how can we make it also sensual? Jonah always gave me my breast exams too, even though when I asked him to feel for that little spot that I had noticed, he couldn't find it. And I feel like, don't you notice when your doctor gives you a breast exam, they just go so fast?
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to feel?
How do you know what's going on in there?
Exactly.
There's all this stuff.
So it's really up to us to know what is going on with our bodies. So these embodiment practices through yoga, through the breath, through our self-touch, these are all helping us live healthier lives.
Yes. Yeah. Duh. I love it. I want to circle back a little bit about words and brand words that we use and tapping into that. You sent me like a brand guide for you guys, and I was reading through it, and you have two different sections with just words, and you do have dazzling and stylish on there, which I absolutely love that you put those on there. Like, yes, you are. And you have radical, joyful, vibrant, but one of the ones that you had on there was approachable. And I thought that was an interesting choice. And I'm curious, what role that plays with you and how you feel about that. Why'd you choose that word?
I feel like I've been able to connect with almost anyone.
Yeah, I could see that about you.
And it's so funny because I have a lot of different friends, and sometimes those friends might not get along with the other friends, but I see the good in this person, and they might drive somebody else nuts. But I feel like I've been able to connect with so many different types of people. And so for somebody to feel safe to come to me with anything that's bothering them, I think being approachable, somebody being able to come to you and you being welcoming to whatever is arising. So that's really the approachable word. Is I've known a lot of different people, and with our previous business at Dutch Bros Coffee, I was able to have conversations with anyone. And when you're in coffee, you're seeing lots of different types of people. And it was a drive-through. So you might have an interaction for 2 minutes. And how can you influence this person's life in 2 minutes? How can you make a difference, even less than 2 minutes, 1 minute? How can you make a difference in this person's day? And so I feel like I learned a lot about approachability through the service industry. And I've been working since I was 12.
Wow.
Yeah. So worked really hard a lot of my life and worked in the service industry. So being able to connect with all sorts of different people is kind of where the approachability comes.
But I like this, you brought it to presence, to whatever's being presented in the moment. I mean, that is a definite key to it, I think. And I like that just because I like to think of myself as approachable and be an approachable person. And I love people and I want to talk and connect and give to people and, just by my presence. And so I don't know why that word really struck me, because I don't think that a lot of people think of that necessarily. Like when they're thinking of their brand or they're thinking of what words describe me, it's just it just stood out. So I thought that was interesting.
Well, and approachability and accessibility, I find similar. So when you have an approachable brand, being able to connect with lots of different clientele. So, I have recorded meditations that you're able to access for free. And then I have more high-end retreat experiences. So you're able to experience our work in either from free experiences up to more in-depth, in-person retreats. So I think having a variety and an approachability so that so many different types of clients can receive something.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes through our body language as well. So with you're so engaged. You have an open body language.
I'm
your
freezing
arms.
now. I'm like, should I freeze in this position or do I need to open up?
Yeah, no, you already are. You're leaning in, and it's that lean in, the eye contact, which I think that's part of something that some people are challenged with, is actually staring into people's eyes because maybe they don't want to be seen.
It's vulnerable.
It
a little
is.
bit, you know.
Yeah, but the more we practice some eye gazing, the better we get at it, right?
The more we practice anything, yes, the better we get at it.
So, in approachability and availability, if somebody reaches out and needs something,
Yeah.
you know, we're there to respond
Yeah.
as long as we have the capacity for it, right?
Yeah. I always want to be approachable and kind because I think, I don't know, I use as an indicator too, anytime that I notice I'm put off by something about someone, I'm like, okay, that's a little indicator of, you know, showing me how I want to be or don't want to be or whatever that is. So that's always interesting to me. Well, we are getting close on time, Britt. Can you believe that? I wanted to just touch on really quick the PEMF.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that for a minute? Can you
Pulsed electromagnetic field therapy.
Thank you.
So the machine that we have is an Electrons Plus machine. It's guided PEMF.
Okay.
Since I've been here in Austin, I've been receiving PEMF at my chiropractor, and he has an awesome machine that he'll like put it near your neck or your lower back. You can put it around your wrist. Anywhere that you're experiencing pain, they put the PEMF machine on, and I sit with it for about 15 minutes. Ours is different because it's guided PEMF. So there's a practitioner. I touch the machine and touch the client, and I'm a conduit for the energy traveling through.
Whoa.
It's really fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's great for everybody because our cells are electric. They carry a charge. And the PEMF is this electrical charge that they help to get the cells up and moving again. So it's basically like a battery charger for your cellular system. So there's a lot of different ways to receive the PEMF with our machine. You can, it's hard to describe, but it's a box. You can find photos on our website. And then there's a plate on top, and then there's a grounding pad. So you put your feet on the grounding pad, and you can just have your hands on the machine, and then you're receiving the PEMF. So people can just sit with it. It can be really great for anxiety, and it makes this clicking sound, which can be a little bit meditative. Or you can be on a massage table, and I could be guiding the PEMF to a specific area of your body that is experiencing pain and needing to get kickstarted again.
Wow.
So you'll notice, say you've got knee pain, I might go over your quad and it might not be reacting, or it might just be, not doing anything. After a little bit of my hand there, sending the PEMF through, it will start to twitch. So it'll reactivate muscles, nerves that weren't actually activated before. It's really, really powerful. So I worked with a guy who was he had had knee surgery, and his leg just was not working the way that it used to. And I think I only worked with him for about 5 or 6 sessions. And he wrote a testimonial and said, my leg has never been working better since. So that's really fascinating.
That is so cool.
It is. And I haven't gotten to practice it much, but it's there and it's available.
Yeah.
So, and it's really cool because it can travel. It goes in a backpack.
Oh.
So we can bring it on an airplane if somebody's wanting to receive it. A lot of people experience a lot of neck and shoulder pain. I'm one of them, especially after these different surgeries I've received. So getting to receive it on your neck and shoulders just really opens up more mobility. It's powerful.
It sounds powerful.
Have you ever done any PEMF?
No.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, we're
I
going to
want
need to bring the machine.
Yes, bring it down here. Yes, I mean, pack your backpack. Good. I think we covered a lot. Was there anything that we haven't gotten to today that you really wanted to touch on, or anything that you want to reiterate, or just anything that's coming up in your heart right now before we wrap up in a few minutes?
I think the Capricorn in me tends to come off very serious.
You do?
Yeah. And I'm not that serious.
No, you're not.
I'm very playful.
Yeah.
And I think that through this, specifically this last year, I realized how much play and dance helps my body so much. So just a quick example, this last week I was having major neck pain, and my friend, my friend shipped me some different pants and shorts to try on. And so I was like, let's make her a cute video. So I put the shorts on and I recorded a video, and I was whipping my hair back and forth, and my neck popped and it put it back into place. Like through dancing and twerking and just like allowing my body to free flow for a minute and forgetting about the pain for a second, it worked. And shortly after, so I had two different surgeries throughout the year, but after my first surgery, we had tickets to see a show. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. We'll see how I'm feeling in the moment. And we went, and I danced, and I was able to, put my arms up over my head and just move into my body of what felt good. And I experienced such a relief in pain by dancing and moving and listening to music. So how can we incorporate play, dance, and movement into our everyday life? And how does it feel? How do our bodies feel afterward? So that's a big one.
That's really cool.
To dance and play.
And it can move energy too. I mean, it's just, I've been getting a lot of lessons about this lately and incorporating more of it into my own life.
Well, and roller skating helps too.
And roller skating, because we were roller skating. Yes. And I wanted to tag on to approachable really quick. I just wanted to say thank you. You were very approachable to me. You were I felt very awkward when I joined Fit for Service, and we went to Sedona, and you were the first person I met, really the first person. I mean, I met, just said hi to people, but I hadn't had a conversation with anyone except you were my first, and you were very approachable and very kind to me and made me feel really comfortable. I just want to say thank you for that.
It's an honor.
It holds a very special place in my heart.
Oh, thank you.
It really does.
I'll never forget our time. We had some really great conversation right there off the bat.
Right there off the bat. And I was like, is this how this is? Yeah. And I mean, it was intense, like really good connection right then. Jonah came up and I got to talk to the two of you. So you hold a really special place for me. Like that, it showed me so much about that community and just who you are. And so really valuable to me. So anything else that you want to share before we go?
Something really exciting is I'm having a winter women's retreat.
Oh, when is that?
It's going to be February 10th through the 13th.
Beautiful.
In Bend, Oregon.
Okay.
Just outside of Bend in Caldera Springs. For a little bit of snow action. But the theme is going to be nourishing the feminine. And I'm bringing in all sorts of amazing practitioners to offer their medicine. One is a Fit for Service sister, Melissa Blinn.
Love her.
She highlights and discusses like honoring our cycles.
Yeah.
So she's going to be offering a workshop and co-facilitating a breathwork ceremony, because we did the same breathwork training with Anahata. And then Freedom, who offers cacao ceremony.
Beautiful.
And we have another gal who does movement. So she more does like strength training. And I think that that's such a big part of my life that I don't want everybody to think that I just do yoga. I love lifting weights, and I love honoring the yang side of my life and nourishing foods. And we'll be going to the mountain for a day to play. And if people don't ski or snowboard, they can just rest and enjoy.
Cool.
So I'm really looking forward to it.
How many people can come to that?
It's going to be a small group, about 10.
Okay. So if somebody wants to do that, check in with it. And I'll put a link in the show notes too, in case anybody wants to see if there's still availability for that.
Excellent.
For sure.
Thank you.
And then also you have some other offerings. You have a really nice newsletter. You have meditations, as I mentioned earlier, on Insight Timer.
And Spotify. And what's the other one? YouTube, not YouTube. Well, it's also on YouTube. Apple Music. Thank you.
Cool. Good. Yes.
All
so
the
people
major
can find all
platforms.
those. Good.
Yeah, and I have a self-guided retreat. It's called Welcome Home, and there's
That's right. That's so interesting. A self-guided retreat. So you can do a retreat at home.
Yeah, and I think people don't understand how they can create sacred space in their home and where to start. So there's a lot of ideas on creating an altar, collecting all of your tools for a yoga practice. There's lots of recipes that are very nourishing. And I have recorded yoga videos, couple yin yoga classes, meditations. You can also get just the meditations on their own on the website too. It's another set of meditations.
Yeah.
And then I have what I really, really love too is the Yin Yoga and Plant Allies. It's not really a course, but it's an ebook with companion videos. They're 30-minute yin yoga videos, and they highlight a different essential oil with each practice. And just, I
like that.
Me too.
Yeah.
I use
we
essential
didn't
oils
use
a lot.
our oil.
Well, should we conclude with it?
Yes, absolutely.
So I consider our essential oils our plant allies. And then this is lavender. And lavender is about communication and calm. So I'm just going to put it in your palm.
Okay.
You're going to rub your hands together. And if you think about a lavender flower, so it's small but mighty.
Yes.
And the way that I like to use my oils, I do this with my clients a lot. You can just find a comfortable seat wherever you're at. Take your hands, cup them over your face, inhaling through the nose, sighing out the mouth. Deep inhale through the nose, sighing out the mouth. Just noticing your body. Deep, deep inhale. Sighing out the mouth. Noticing a place on your body that is asking for your attention. Then you can take the rest of the oil and place it there. And yeah, I'm in the same spot with the back of the neck.
Yeah, mine's for a different reason, but yes, yeah.
And lavender, since it's the oil of communication and calm, you can place it on your throat.
That's kind of where I was going, my throat chakra, right?
Before you're having a difficult conversation, before you're about to speak, you can use the lavender. But we can call on these allies for different things, just like we call on our friends for different things, right? And so this Yin Yoga and Plant Allies series, you learn about the oils. I have a full ebook like sharing all about the oils and the history and ways that you can use them, and then a list of my favorite ones. And each of the oils are actually attributed to a different chakra, and each class is actually highlighting a different chakra, but I don't speak it out loud.
Okay.
So the lavender is definitely for the throat.
Okay. Oh, good. I didn't know that. I've studied some chakras and connection to body parts and through my Reiki practice, but I'm not near as well versed. I would love to learn more, but sometimes I just get confused because it's a lot of information.
Well, and the understanding and learning just continues to evolve.
Yes.
So you keep hearing these things, and then eventually they'll stick.
Yes, eventually they do.
Yeah.
I'm of that mindset, 100%. So everyone can find you at BZen Wellness, the letter B, ZEN wellness.com, correct? And where else can we direct
Instagram,
people?
BZen Wellness. You can also find my personal page, Brit Boersma.
Brit Boersma. I'll put links to everything in the show notes so people can find you, connect with you, and hopefully, tap into some of these beautiful resources that you're offering.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I feel like you have such a wealth of knowledge that we just, dipped our toe into. So, I just love learning from you, and I just love you so much and the beautiful soul that you are.
Thank you so much,
Thank
sister.
you so much for being here today. And thank you to everyone that was listening today. I'm so, so grateful that you were here. And if something called to your heart, please let me know. You can always reach me. You can email me, amy@amyedwards.com, or you can reach me on Instagram at realamyedwards. I would love to hear your feedback, or you can leave it in the reviews because I look at those every so often and check out what everyone's got to say. And I'm just so grateful that you're here and grateful that you were here, Brit. Thank you again. Thank you. And yes, please rate, review, share with a friend if you felt called. And I think this just opens us up to so many different things that we can learn about everything that we go through in life. And I want to apologize to you, Brit, too, for saying remission when you're actually cancer-free. So,
no.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that right really quick. So thank you so much for being here. I love you all so much and love you. And and I just hope that you have an absolutely beautiful week. Thank you for being here. Till next time.
Be well, friends.
Yeah. This has been the Amy Edwards Show from Overcome Studios. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe. And thank you so much for being here. Sign up for our newsletter at amyedwards.com.